Good evening then, ladies and gentlemen across the world. Welcome aboard to WOR. This is the Legacy Division. Pleased to be alongside you for what will be a very interesting event ahead of us. It is the Texas Grand Prix live in Austin, the United States Grand Prix rather, for what will be another exciting round of racing. We are currently coming at you for round number 18 rather, of the final run of this run in the Americas before we fly over to Japan on March 11th. It's a week of testing, isn't it? We are live for what will be a week of real F1 racing and F1 25 as they test the cars and testing the limits they are in the Legacy Division as well. The standings are pretty clear cut. We have a new championship leader after so many rounds of racing. The Spanish outfit of ET8 take the lead in the championship of 586 points after a double win in the sprint race and in the main race, of course, in Canada. Team Shazoo now up to second place as they try to chase their second title in a row in the Legacy Division. It is myself, Jota, alongside Joseph tonight for what will be a very exciting round, of course. As I said, Joseph, it is the Texas Grand Prix, it is Austin, it is the United States Grand Prix, one for definitely for strategy, the undercut, probably the most powerful round here.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, Jota. Good evening, everybody. Fantastic to be back once again. A real mixture of tight, twisting corners, fast, and it puts a lot of strain onto the tyres as well. You mentioned that undercut, a lot more valuable, perhaps this week than it was in Canada as well, with potentially gaps of up to 2-3 seconds able to be clawed back by pitting just that lap early. We'll get to strategy in a few moments' time. I think it's weather we might have to be concerned about first, because drivers already out there on softs. You usually see the drivers playing with the intermediates, but straight into Q1, and they are already setting in some bankers on the soft tyres as well. Overcast skies here in the Lone Star State. New championship leaders indeed, but can they extend, or will we see another twist in this very fascinating Legacy Division tale?
Yes, that's a critical one, isn't it, as well? I think I'm getting a little bit of a... I don't know if we're getting a little bit of playback here at the moment. I'm trying to figure it out, see where that's being caused, because we've got no... Yeah, there we are. It's all sorted now. For some reason, I'm getting you twice, Joseph, and you're a fabulous. You're a fabulous individual, and it'd be lovely to have you twice. But we'll stick with just the one for now. Otherwise, we'll get a bit confused. Just keeping an eye on what's happening out there at the moment as well. You may notice that we do have a little bit of a glitch happening at the moment. Cameron's dad will be wondering why his son is currently in the pit lane, flying around the circuit while just turning the steering wheel. He is on circuit at the moment, just trying to get a lap in, but as it stands so far, he's currently in the pit lane, so we will see a lap time from him coming across with a 1:30.7. It gives us an opportunity as the drivers are just getting themselves ready, as you see the overcast conditions indicating we may be in for some rain in this qualifying session. Driver table rather, as the roster is released. There it is, as it stands so far for TTM. It is Mubarak and Rayan racing tonight as well, probably the strongest lineup at the moment over at TTM, with Nassim and PLX for EVE, Danny and Samuel for TRT, and then the big ones, CPI. They're obviously a little bit on the back foot, probably the dark horses of this particular championship, not likely to close down the gap to first place, but could get into the top three. The issue is Jeslos having a qualifying ban, Gatkowski with a 3-place grid penalty. ET8, the new championship leaders, Epic Vale and Sergio tonight. Sergio is absolutely flying at the moment in this season of racing. Cabra Dowds, as we said, with Volaconga for Team Shazoo, Simbarox 1 and Dan for FRT. There's Dirk and Brando for the TF10, with Justin and Joe Murphy for the Kick Sauber team. BRT looking to try and claw back the championship if they can, with GT10's Kiki and Quartz leading the way at the back of the grid as they managed to eclipse 100 points in the last championship race. Let's go back to the action then, as everyone is just getting themselves out on the outlaps. For those that didn't set a lap time on this occasion, I'm keeping a firm eye on Dirk here tonight, and a driver that I've always been fond of actually in this particular championship, Dirk. It's been a bit unfortunate at times. I think one of the things that I remember was Qatar, if I remember correctly, where he ended up having a massive puncture towards the end of this race as he tried to do a heroic effort on a set of hard tyres. But a driver looking to try and get towards the top for TF10, who actually found a little bit of form in Canada until an unfortunate issue, shall we say, in terms of the safety car.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of their drivers, in fact, in Tony, did manage to claw back 10 seconds because they got 20 in the end, didn't they? So very fortunate that not all of that 20 seconds was served, and therefore a really, really good podium in the end for the TF10 team, who were criticised actually for the mistake they made going in under that last safety car. They really shouldn't have, when they could have kept the on-track position, potentially benefited from a little bit of chaos, but instead plummeted down the orders. They were both left stationary in the pit lane. Tonight's a different night, though. Brando and Dirk at the wheel. We know what Brando is capable of, a real competitor towards the top end of console tier 1, and he's had some really good moments in the legacy division as well. So hopefully no similar mistake tonight. Hopefully they're not in the position where they're going to have to cut part of the circuit out and take a penalty that's out of their hands.
Yeah, that's the critical one, isn't it? So just keeping a firm eye then on Dirk as he's going on his lap at the moment, looking to try and if you can help it, try and get near his teammate at the moment, Brandu, 130.9. I think there should be a bit more pace in Dirk than that one, to be perfectly honest with you. Brandu, not a slow driver by any means, but certainly needs to find a bit more pace if he wants to try and qualify higher in this particular session. Not sure if he'll even get through, actually, with that particular lap time in Q1. We'll have to see, though. 9.5 minutes, just over 9.5 minutes to go, rather. Plenty of time here, as the red light blinking on the back of that RB, indicating he's just recharging the batteries. As it comes across the line right now, 130.6, beats his teammate by 0.3 of a second. PLX of EVE into the top 10 with a 130.7. Gives us a very quick opportunity to take a look then at last week's results. And there they are, of course. Matteo winning that particular race. Tony getting second place in the end, with Duncan in fourth place. What a magnificent effort from GT10 to get into the fourth place. Volakongan splitting them on for P3. There's Gabba for Team Shazoo as well in P6. Slowly starting to find a little bit of pace between driver A and driver B at the moment, and that's what's keeping them in that title hunt to find their second title.
Yeah, agreed. Of course, Gabba unfortunate to get the 3-second penalty, which would have had him in third, just ahead of his teammate. But yeah, I felt they worked together as a unit. It was difficult for them last week. I think Volakongan and Andrea, I want to say, they didn't quite close up to the pack as quickly as they would have wanted to. I thought Volakongan's raw pace, other than that, was very, very good and very competitive, and it could have been an even better outcome than just the third place. Still a win to their name, of course, just the one after Cameron Dowds a couple of weeks ago now. He's back at the wheel tonight, him and Volakongan. They've always gone well together as a team. I think we're in for something similar tonight with their performance discrepancies.
Yeah, and there's Matteo obviously taking the win in the sprint race as well, so a double win for Matteo as well. He's a world champion for a reason, is Matteo, showing the pace for ET8 and leading from the front. TF10's Tony Reich then getting second place from GT10's Fana Spinoda, who had an absolute cracker of a sprint race to finish in P3 in the end, even though that his main race was a little bit precarious, to say the least. Now Gio, fourth place for TTM on his debut, is a good effort from Owen in P5 for BRT, which just goes to show the real drop at the moment for BRT. Because, as I said, if we go back to the standings very briefly, take a look at that. I think they were massively ahead, well over 100 points in front. And then it's just sort of collapsed on them, hasn't it, over the season? And BRT now down to third. They were first last week, down to third. Team Shazoo now second with ET8 Esports in first. 586, 574, 572, and then CPI 531. Still very much to play for in that gap in the top four, with that no man's land starting for TTM in fifth.
Yeah, BRT will argue that, ET8 started the season slower. They got off to a flyer, BRT, and that it's just kind of balanced out over the course of the season, and perhaps at the minute they don't deserve to be at the...
So it looks like we might have lost Joseph
the first people to admit that. They're self-critical. Oh, am I back?
I think you're back.
Was I gone?
Yeah, I think you were gone for just a few seconds there. I was hoping that it might have just been a brief cut, and as I was talking, as I tried to take over, you immediately came back. So your point, sorry.
Yeah, BRT, they're self-critical, they're honest, they know where they can do better, and they've just not quite been up to the same standard as they were at the start of the season. And I must add, by the way, it's raining out on the circuit. That's why drivers have retired, and that is why we've got some real pressure being added now into the current bottom five. Jeslar, of course, qualifying ban. That's one man out of the equation for CPI. 4 more. Now desperately trying to get a final lap time before the track greases up.
Yeah, I think that might be it, to be perfectly honest with you as well, actually, with about 6 minutes to go in this session. Yeah, I think it's probably it now Unfortunately, we are completely done for with the this particular session, because I think with the rain now falling, we're not expecting lap times to improve. If anything, lap times will start to depreciate pretty aggressively, as we saw with Samuel Barker just going into the pit lane, losing the rear as he finally gets into the pits. Simbarox 1 also not going to be improving anytime soon, as he just trails the car at around 50 miles an hour. EVE's PLX will be disappointed as well. 300ths of a second separating him from the dropout zone. Quartz just sneaking in himself, separated by by exactly half a tenth between him and Dirk as well. Down in P14, it's a bit of a drop, isn't it, for TF10, leading from the front at one point in the Canadian Grand Prix. They've then flown south to the Lone Star State, and suddenly they're not finding as much pace as they once was. However, leading from the front, who is it going to be? No other than Joe Murphy. BRT trying to find the form. The challenge is, though, Justin down in 9th place, and once again, is that the contributor for BRT, who at one point were championship leaders by a considerable margin? Driver A, driver B, significant difference.
Yeah, with Joe Murphy, I think it might be a blessing that he wasn't available last week and is tonight to fulfill his third in the 6-race rule. It's just that second driver, of course. I think last week it was Oscu, wasn't it? And he was almost being a test dummy, especially in the first part of the race, and then it never really got going and never really materialised into any sort of valuable points for the team. So, yeah, it's pressure on Joe Murphy's shoulders, of course, being the team leader and being the quickest driver, somebody that they can depend on. But, of course, it benefits the second driver as well, because they learn a lot from him as the session goes on. Justin only a couple tenths behind on this occasion. That's what they need.
Well, PLX is trying to give it a good go, but he's just invalidated the lap as well on this first sector, so that will pretty much be it here. I think the expectation, Dirk Gatkowski will be retiring from this session, and we'll be getting on with Q2 a little bit earlier than anticipated, but PLX don't think he's going to be improving anywhere, to be perfectly honest with you as well. His Sector 1 lap time was completely off the cuff. We'll see where his Sector 2 split actually is as well. Sector 2 just coming after this corner here, down at the main straight as well. I expected some overtaking in this particular race around there, but as you can see, 0.8 of a second down already, and he is actually pushing as well. His ERS levels are at around about 35%, so he is pushing, but 7.5, nearly 0.8 down actually, and it's going to be a nil point at the moment for him. Now Dirk, curiously, has gone onto a set of intermediate tyres, so I'm wondering if he's waiting for the call to say that the intermediate tyre is the better tyre to be on, as EVE's PLX just completely getting rid of the bollard and then spinning in the pit lane entry. And that's the last thing he needs to do, because if he gets disqualified, he's starting at the back. Dirk, though, on a set of intermediate tyres, is he taking the opportunity potentially to have a little go out on circuit on the set of inters if it is suitable for them?
And not only is he doing that, he's upsetting all of the other cars waiting in the pit lane, and that does tend to rustle up a few feathers when one driver doesn't retire and circulates on their own. So maybe mind games, as well as trying to suss out the best of the conditions and how he may benefit from that in Q2 and potentially Q3 if the rain stays at this intensity. It's up to you, Dirk. I won't hold you accountable for it, but expect a couple of drivers saying, retire, retire, if you don't hurry up.
Yeah, I think Gatkowski heard your calling there, to be fair, as well, Joseph, because he retired upon you saying that one. Dirk, though, determined to just wait for the intermediates, determined, is there going to be a time where the intermediate is going to be the best tyre to be on at the moment? That's not that's not what is happening, because, you know, the typical thing that we have as the people that commentate on these races is that little notification bar at the top that says, are we ready for a set of intermediate tyres when the DRS is disabled? We haven't had that message as of yet, so typically that usually means that the dry tyre is a better tyre to be on, but the rain is not falling considerably, so you'd have to argue here. Dirk will be retiring shortly. That would indicate to me that, are we going to see a bunch of people leaving on a set of dry tyres when we get going with Q2, I wonder?
Yeah, it'll be a complete race to the line and to set that first lap of the session if they do. It's hard to say from here. You know, officially there's a few minutes in between the end of Q1 and the start of Q2 where potentially the track might be a complete washout. We could see those puddles on the track and the indication that the track is ready for intermediates. But you know, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody gives it a go and then hopes that they don't leave it too late to get the best of the intermediate conditions.
Yeah, that's the critical thing, isn't it, at the moment? Anyway, nonetheless, Joe Murphy leading the way from the front from Rayan and then from Danny in the top three, but very much open for sort of marking here about where we're going to be for Q2. Is it going to be Inters or is it going to be the soft tyres, I wonder, as we get onto the circuit? Rain is still not really considerable, and to be honest with you, looking at the pit lane, it's still pretty dry, so I'm wondering if we are going to see a bunch of people leaving very quickly on a set of dry tyres. This qualifying session might be done pretty quickly, you know.
Yeah, this is exciting. I'm not seeing those aforementioned puddles that I was on about, especially in the pit lane. Might be a different story on track. It's not like we have those camera angles to cycle through when everybody's in the pit lane. I see movement in the Red Bull garage. I think they are ready to go out. That's one of the TTM cars at the front of the pit lane.
Is
being
it
the
Moba or is it Rayan though, Joseph? I wonder. It's looking like to me it's Rayan is setting out on a set of softs. Moba is also leaving as well, but he's on a set of inters. So are we seeing something fairly similar to what has been in a few other league events recently, where people are going to leave on a set of soft tyres, recognise that the soft tyres suddenly become not the tyre of choice, and leaving on a set of inters is the best tyre to be on? We've got 3 people on a set of inters, but everyone else on a set of softs here. If this works out, an absolute treat here. Volakonga, Brandu and Moba are going to be the ones that are going to benefit massively from this one. All I do know at the moment is none of them that are on the intermediate have actually left, except Moba. There we go. Now we're starting to see the interrunners.
Yeah, looking at this track now, seeing the reflections of the raindrops, it's really not a very scientific thing the game does, but yeah, it's got that glossy sheen. The puddles are starting to form, and I think it is just about intermediate tyres. So maybe the soft runners have got this one wrong. Maybe they've been staring furiously at that delta, and if they can take a 10th or 2 advantage from this, they will take it, because it might well knock out the couple of intermediate runners if they cannot be as quick as the softs. Let's see though, first car out on track, and it is very important that you are the first car. It's BRT Justin, I believe, and he's on a set of soft tyres, so let's see how he treacherously tiptoes his way around the circuit of the Americas. It's a tricky track at the best of times. These conditions don't help that.
Yeah, quite as well at the moment as he's on a set of soft tyres. I wonder if he's going to dive into the pit lane or he's going to give it a go. He is diving into the pit lane. DRS is still enabled, by the way, folks. So we saw people, as we were just on board with camera Daz, the DRS wing did open. So a bunch of people electing to, by the looks of things, dive straight into the pit lane. They don't like these soft tyres, so they reckon it's going to be set for intermediates imminently, which means opportunity knocks for the likes of Mubarak, Valakongan, Brandu and Dirk. Would you believe the 2 TF10 boys are back in it again in this Q2 session, as we've just gone board with Mubarak. I think he was the first person to leave on a set of intermediates, and he is getting on with it. We have got a bunch of other people that are on a set of soft tyres that are getting on with it. It looks like FRT's Dan and ETE's Nassim are both elected to actually get on with the lap, despite the fact that perhaps the dry tyre is not the tyre to be on.
We're going to try and compare sector times, I think, in the first sector for some of these drivers. I think Mercedes have just gone through of Nassim, 27.577 in the first sector. Now looking at Mubarak, he's a full second quicker. So yeah, the intermediates are the tyres to be on. And a clean lap here for Volakongan and Mubarak should see them safely through into Q3. Confirmation of the DRS being disabled. They've done the right thing. It was worth the little gamble, I think, on the soft tyres. I completely resonate with why 13 of them have gone for that strategy. But yeah, nicely done by Mubarak and Volakongan just to play it safe when, as well, you consider Volakongan last week, he went for the wets in the one-shot qualifying. That didn't work out.
Yeah, the 2 TF10 boys have done exactly the same thing as well. Dirk and Brandu leaving on a set of intermediate tyres as well. It's looking like it's an absolute golden call here, because that means these 4 drivers are all on laps when everyone else is on out laps, as the track conditions will continue to deteriorate. So unless they make a mistake, these 4 drivers are probably safely through, to be perfectly honest with you. 11 minutes to go in this session, but let's be candid, that is significantly shorter when you consider the track conditions are deteriorating with every passing lap. On board with Mubarak at the moment as he's coming through the treble right-hander, then chucking the car through the left-hander. Try not to cross that white line as he does expertly, does Mubarak, as he's just losing the rear ever so slightly, and a bit of a tank slapper over there, and again a bit of a tank slapper, but manages to keep it within the track limits. 39.6 as he comes across the line. Valakongan 40.0, 4/10 of a second down. Then it's the two TF10 boys that are going to be setting laps. First will be Brandu as he's coming across the final corner right now. Will he be able to at least split the two? Gets in there, or is he going to go even faster? I wonder. He does split them. 39.9 for him. Next person will be his teammate Dirk, a driver again. I'll be keeping a firm eye out on this race. This is the kind of circuit where we'd expect Dirk to be up there, to be honest with you, as he's coming across now the final couple of corners. Penultimate corner, done a bit more conservatively than maybe you would expect, but chucks the car through the final corner, through the left-hander, and no DRS available, of course, as he comes across the line and only goes with a 40.2, but they are probably going to be the 4 fastest lap times, is the expectation, as the first person to be setting a lap on this second set of intermediate runners who started on the softs, GT10 Quartz.
Yeah, this Quartz lap will reveal all, I think, because Brando pretty much matched Valakongan there. Dirk a couple of tenths slower, just the indication that we've just started to reach a period of heavier rain, and the optimum lap times for this session are gone. And what that essentially does is reduce the number of safe spots in this session. So about 11 drivers here fighting for 6 places to stay in qualifying and be in the hunt for pole position. So this is just about to get a little bit more intense. I'm kind of glad that rain has played out how it has and hasn't just effectively ended the qualifying session early with everybody pumping in a lap on the soft tyres and calling it a day.
Yeah, it's limited the opportunities as well to actually get through to Q3, because it means that there's only really, in technicality perspective, only 6 spots, unless we get a cracking lap time coming in from some of these second intermediate runners as well. We've got an Aston Martin just getting out the way of a Mercedes. Looks like it is... it'll be Nassim, won't it? That'll be on an out lap at the moment, just overtaking one of the Aston Martins who have elected not to go. In fact, is it even an Aston Martin? I wonder, actually, now looking at it. I'm not really sure, because it looks like the Aston Martins are just coming onto the main straight. We'll see anyway, but keeping an eye out on Quartz as he's just coming through the final couple of corners now. He's just gone through the treble right-hander. Rear not looking happy at all, and then he puts the car, and as he just skates, he's drifting around the turn 19 and then into 20, where Quartz will be hoping to try and get somewhere near Dirk. We'll see, and then he comes across the line. Look at the gap, 0.6 of a second for Quartz. I know GT10 are not quite there, but if you're looking the comparable of a driver who is in there, Justin, 0.2 of a second separating him from the likes of Valakongan, and actually beats Dirk's lap time, and Rayen comes across the line and actually gets up there alongside Moba. So as it stands so far, those top 4 drivers haven't really benefited massively from doing it. Here's Joe Murphy. Is he going to beat the 2 TTM boys? Goes third fastest, 39.932, beating Brandu to the line on that one as well. Keeping an eye out on Epic Vale at the moment, just keeping it within the white lines, as well as the Aston Martin and ETA. The new championship leaders looking to continue in good form at the moment. Are they going to be in a position? 40.1 indicates to me that they're not finding comfort out there at the moment, and Sergio only a 40.5. He's out of qualifying as it stands. Cameron's dad will be happy to hear that his son has just managed to get in as it stands with a 40.4, but let's be honest, he's definitely at risk. Dan also on a lap. Nassim looking to try and get in there as well, but they are just starting their laps.
Yeah, very much at risk. Cameron Dowds, he's making me eat my words. Ryan and Joe Murphy are making me eat my words about potentially having fewer safe spots in this session. They've just proven that you can compete with that lap time set by Mubarak. He's still out there on the circuit. He's recharging his battery, and I think he's set to go again. Nope, I say that. He comes straight back into the pit lane. Really good effort, you got to say, by Ryan, and that has all but secured a double TTM spot in Q3. The other teams cannot yet agree, though. We know a CPI driver is missing. We know that one of the Shizou drivers might be missing as well. So that outside chance for the championship is still on with 7 races to go. TTM will be looking at this and just keeping their wits about them, playing it cool for the remainder of the session.
Just keeping an eye out on Dan, who's just come across the line with a 40.9. He's only 14th fastest. And Nassim looking to try and get in there as well. He invalidated his first intermediate run, and as a result, he's had to have another go at this one in conditions that are now starting to deteriorate pretty quickly. The sun's still shining ever so slightly through the clouds at turn number 20, but decent effort from Nassim to go 11th fastest. But he's down by 16 thousandths of a second. Sorry, pardon me, 14 thousandths of a second on Cameron Dowds. Cameron Dowds, Team Shazoo, certainly got more pace in him than that one, but are the track conditions going to allow him to put further pressure on those in front of him and obviously put a distance between those in the bottom 5, which as it stands so far, Nassim Gatkowski, Sergio in shocking circumstances, Quartz and Dan.
Yeah, I think if you're not finding the raw pace on the first lap, you're going to be starting to chase that delta. And I think that's the worst thing you can do in these conditions. I feel like you'll just start to overdrive the car, especially from the point of view of Dan and Quartz, who really did not have a good first lap. Dan is on a recharge lap. I think he's heading back into the pit lane to swap for a fresh set of intermediates to give it one more go in this session. Quartz has just got to keep it cool, focus on every braking zone, every traction zone, just to try and eke out every last bit of time, because it's going to be hard now. That rain has now increased in intensity, and I really don't think we'll be seeing the repetition of Ryan and Joe Murphy's heroic effort to really secure their spot in Q3.
Keeping a firm eye then on Quartz, who's looking to try and at least have another go at this one here. The actual conditions out there at the moment are not deteriorating as rapidly as once thought, so there may be an opportunity to try and improve on the lap time. The question is that are they going to get anywhere near Cameron Dowd's 1:44.24? As it stands so far, Nassim still able to put a little bit of a pressure on the front on Cameron Dowd's time, but as it stands so far, not quite in there at the moment. Keeping an eye on Dirk as well. He's on a lap at the moment in the second sector, just coming across the second sector split. Be interesting to see where he is versus his 1:42.48. In terms of his split in sector 2, his split line coming up right now, he's down 2 seconds. So we've lost Joseph.
Sorry, Jotto was on mute there.
Ah, there we go. Right,
trying to blow me nose. Caught me at the wrong time. Right, Volakongan, 2/10 down, as you say. I was just watching Quartz starting his lap and climbing up the 11% rise, the 11% gradient into turn 1, finds the apex. Now watch the traction. Has a couple of goes at it. It's not looking too comfortable, but he wasn't on his first lap. Hard to generalise though from just one corner. How much can he keep on the throttle through turns 3, 4 and 5, really pushing the limits and driving to the white lines through 6 and down through 7 now as well. It tightens, it gets slower. It's really painful from a driver's point of view to try and attack these corners, particularly in the wet. Bit of drifting on that outside curb, down now in towards turn 11 and setting up 1 kilometre worth of straight where the exit will be vital. Good exit, he finds time all the way down here and could potentially threaten Cameron Dowds for P10.
Using overtake down this main straight, of course no DRS available now on the back of that Haas, because of course it's been disabled as a result of the wet conditions now in this Q2 session. Going through into the next corner then, how much of that curb is going to take? A lot of it actually, but managing to stay within the track limits, and he's actually found a 10th and a half, so that would actually put him, it'd keep him unfortunately in P14, but he's definitely still finding time out there, which means again the track is deteriorating, but it's not deteriorating as rapidly as once thought, so there is opportunity for people to improve. I'm surprised, not surprised at all actually in this one, is that Brando's actually in the pit lane. He might be leaving imminently, or maybe not, maybe he's had enough. Oh, it's an invalidation from Quartz on turn number 19. It's allowed him to jump the sausage curb. I think he was expecting a bucket of understeer, and then the car just gripped, and unfortunately for him, I think that might be it.
Cameron Dowds is nearly half a second down. Gatkowski is well off his time as well, and a quarter of a second down as he completes sector 2. Sergio 300ths down in the first sector, not as bad as what the other two were putting in, and so he might still hang in there to try and complete the final lap in this session. Joe Murphy, by the way, this is a great lap considering the rain at this stage. 400ths down in the middle sector. Is he going to go to the end of this one? Yes, he is. I'm interested to see what he's going to do. Nassim hasn't improved. I don't think he is going again, though, if he can. Only a 10th down for Joe Murphy, who has just proven the grip is still there, the time is still there. You've just got to find it with just over a minute to go left in the session.
Yeah, very, very light sprinkling at the moment, I think is what is best described as mildly moist out on circuit, but certainly enough that the intermediate tyre is needed. Sergio doing the best that he can at the moment here as well. Remember, ETA, new championship leaders going into this race, will be hoping to get both of their drivers through to Q3 as it stands, but getting a tank slapper and now a bucket of understeer for Sergio means that I think he's now going to abandon this lap entirely, and I think he has, you know, and that is going to be over and done with here unless he's got enough fuel and enough ERS to get on with the next lap here. Sergio is going to be in real trouble as he comes across the final corner. No expectation of an improvement on this occasion after that turn 16, 17, 18 set of corners, so he's going to have another go at this one, but he is going to be depreciated on electrical energy in that Mercedes power unit.
Absolutely, yeah. Nassim completely coming to a slow grinding halt almost by the end of the back straight as he is out of the session as well. He won't get time for another lap. Dan does improve and knocks Quartz off of his P14 perch, and that concludes our bottom 5 in Q2. No CPI to be represented. Gatkowski will start in P15 due to that 3-place grid penalty, promoting our final 3 drivers in this session up 1 place apiece. Comfort though for Cameron Dowds at long last. He never really looked quite there in these conditions compared to some of his nearest rivals towards the front. He will hope for a bit more consistency in the final part of qualifying.
Yeah, and FRT Dan did manage to get across the line to have another go at this one. My chance of that's it is because of Sergio, who decided to cut the corner at turn 5, and that saw him leave this Q2 session in no higher than P13, but it'll start, of course, in P12 with Gatkowski's 3-place grid penalty. FRT Dan also invalidating at turn 5 as well. That means he will be starting in P13 after Gatkowski's 3-place grid penalty. Nassim, P11, not a bad effort indeed from the EVE man, considering he's down only 14 thousandths of a second versus Cameron Dowds, who will start in who will be in P10 and actually will go through to Q3, of course. And a good effort from Danny as well in the Ferrari. A great effort from the TRT man who has managed to get through in P9. Dirk is through in P8 from Justin, Epic Vale, Valakonga, Brandu, Joe Murphy. And then the 2 TTM boys. I did say that they were probably the fastest in their roster. First and second for the pair.
Yeah, really nice, efficient session by TTM there. Well, especially from Moba's side of the garage, he was straight out on the intermediates, clearly feeding back to Ryan, going, just get out as soon as you can, get a lap in on the intermediates. That's exactly what they did. Lovely 1-2 there in Q2.
Right, that's it then for Q2. As we said, 2 TTM boys at the top of the standings as a result of that. A great performance indeed from them. The fake, now Madagascan in BRT's Joe Murphy, and the kick Sauber in P3 from Brandu, Valakonga, Epic Vale, Justin, Dirk, Danny and Cameron Dowd rounding out the top 10. As we said, those that were knocked out, EVE's Nassim, Gatkowski, Sergio in shocking circumstances for the new championship leaders in ET8, Dan and Quartz. Remember, Gatkowski serves a 3-place grid penalty, so he starts in P15 as a result of that one. So Sergio's promoted to P12, Dan to P13 and Quartz to P14 respectively. We then go through to Q number 3. Interesting to see how the rain is going to affect the circuit. Once again, I would not expect there to be any difference in what tyre we're going to be on. We're probably going to be on another set of intermediate tyres. The question is, when we get out on the circuit, is the rain going to be falling any more significantly? That's it, just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't look much different from the end of Q2 in my eyes, but we need one of those rain cylinders that they sample the rain in and see how much falls at a certain amount of time. We don't have those in the commentary box, so we just kind of have to guess these things. 12 minutes. I suspect drivers will try and cycle through 2 sets of tyres, maybe fueling up for 2 flying laps with a cool down in between. It'll be tight for time though towards the end of the session, so they'll see how it feels maybe after 1 lap and decide the rest of their session from there. But one thing's for certain, they are all out there pretty much immediately. We should see the first lap times coming in about 3 minutes time.
Just having a quick look actually in the paddock chats. People are just leaving the pit lane, Joseph. I'm just getting a bit of insight into what's happening with Sergio at the moment, because obviously well off the pace in that particular session. And by the looks of things, he hasn't done a 29 here on F1 24 yet. So as it stands so far, Sergio hasn't really been able to get the pace that he wants from this circuit, and that obviously can tell as a result of the situation that's happened out there. He's not been able to adapt to the circumstances on circuit. As a result, he's knocked out in Q2. So, you know, not the best fielding then from ET8. Perhaps they were limited by the roster.
Yeah, potentially, but don't worry, Sergio, I haven't done a 29 either.
Keeping a firm eye as well on what's happening out on circuit Q3. 10.5 minutes to go in this session then, as everyone is on their outlaps. The track is deteriorating pretty rapidly. Now you can see there's definitely a dry line on circuit, as you can see, and that means that, as I said, the track is deteriorating rapidly. So maybe this will be it. Maybe these set of laps will be the ones that determine the grid. Who knows? You know, as it stands so far, this grid, this circuit, has been actually kind of kind to people who have actually made a mistake and given them another opportunity. But with that dry line starting to form on circuit, has the track conditions deteriorated enough that you can no longer make that one mistake?
The last thing they want to do is see the rain intensity increase so much they're having to try and balance the wet tyres, and we all know that wet tyres are an absolute handful on this game. They are not going to give you any sort of pace at all. But less of the wet tyre discussion. The two BRT cars are setting lap times first. It's Justin ahead of Joe Murphy, and remember the fastest lap in Q2 was a 39.6 give or take, so we'll make comparisons by the end of the lap. I think you were seeing about 27.5s for first sector time. So watching on then on board with Justin, who is the first car, and he has done a 27.2, so it's actually not a terrible start for Justin. Sorry, I think it was a 26.5 I think we saw, so I've bad-mouthed myself there. I've got that one wrong. It is potentially quite a bit slower. We'll see in a minute as he makes his way down in towards turn number 11.
Yeah, turn 11 and then down the main straight, of course. Wants to put the power down, but the kick Sauber not getting that much of a kick of oversteer out of the corner. So actually a decent effort just easing the power down as he goes down the main straight, using overtake, of course, to compensate for the lack of a DRS wing available in these wet conditions as he now approaches turn 12, chucking the car through the left-hander. You can actually cut that corner quite aggressively if you want around here, to be fair, because you do stick within the track limits, as it looks like Joe Murphy is actually starting to catch up a little bit to the rear of Justin at the moment, so hopefully no impediment is going to occur. And of course, dirty air not going to be a thing with everyone on no collisions. Of course, everyone is permanently ghosted in this one. Oh, losing the rear a little bit, going through the turns 16, 17 and 18 complex. The treble right-hander in the third sector before going into 19, the penultimate corner. Takes the curb quite aggressively, does Justin, but he feels confident throughout that final corner. It's one of my favourite corners, actually, on the circuit, believe it or not, and all of the circuits that I've got available to him. 41.2 is what he sets initially as Joe Murphy goes with a 40.9. So track conditions are deteriorating pretty rapidly, but Ryan immediately beating the BRT boys. Epic Fail only going P3 for the championship leaders, so TTM looking very quick indeed as Mubarak only goes P6 with a 41.7. Brandu looking to try and get up there, but Danny, what an effort from the TRT man in the Ferrari. 41.0 puts in P3. Where will Brandu go as he only goes P9? 42.1, and Dirk is out of sync with everyone else here. Could be actually what turned out to be a really good start in Q2 for TF10. Might be an absolute shocker of a Q3 for them.
Yeah, I think we've got two different groups of drivers here. I think you've got the front four, maybe five, who are satisfied with that first lap and think, I don't know how much more I'm going to get out of that considering these conditions. And then Cameron Downs onwards, especially down to Brando, who will think, no, we've got to go again, recharge, we've got to find the time. While we still can. Ryan, again, another fantastic lap. He was the lap of the session, I think, in Q2, set to get a few minutes after MOBA and only going a couple of tenths slower. Now he's got provisional pole in Q3. He's feeling on top of the world in these weather conditions. TTM will be hoping long may this continue, but expect, I think, these guys to have another crack at it towards the back.
Yeah, Lauren's in the chat saying that Dirk is qualifying P10. He is out of sync with everyone else, and I would expect with the track deteriorating as rapidly as it is now that perhaps he's made a bit of a boo-boo, deciding to not go out on circuit with everyone else. You can see getting onto the water and the car just starting to aquaplane ever so slightly as it goes through 5, and this is where he'll invalidate because he's gone too wide going through 4, and as a result he's just cost himself any possibility of getting up there now, I think, and that will probably be it for the likes of Dirk as everyone else now diving into the pit lane. And 5 different teams in the top 6, Joseph, once again showing Legacy Division, anybody can really get up there.
Yes, absolutely. Two of those being BRT, though, and they need a big response, as we've already been discussing tonight, having fallen to third in the championship. It's the first time they've lost a championship lead since round 5. They started leading the championship after round 6.
Justin's flying at the moment in the first sector. He's
Oh.
gone purple. He's flying, so he's obviously found a little bit more pace on his out. He's gone in for an out lap. He's gone in for an out lap, gone for a fast lap, gone on a self-charge lap, and he's gone straight back out again. So he feels like he just wants to get on with it. So he's fueled for a few more runs. Is the BRT man, and actually looking quite competitive. He'll be within the 1 minute 40s if his first sector time continues to be the way it is at the moment. Looking to take a good sector 2 split, which comes after this corner, turn number 12. Expecting the majority of the hotspot of the racing, but he's just been a big greenie going through turn 12, and you can see you could take a lot of that corner, but not that much, Justin. And look at that, through there he found 4/10 of a second. Now some of that could be attributed to the corner, so if you take 2/10 off, he would have actually been within the 40.9s, which would have put him around about Joe Murphy's pace.
Not all of it, though, and what's interesting is that he's carrying on in hot lap and in overtake mode, so I think this is now a case of what could have been. I mean, he could have been in the pits anyway at the end of this lap, and that is exactly what he's doing, because he could have left himself really tight for time. Take another 1 minute 40 out of an in lap, and his fuel is flashing red, so maybe even longer. I don't think he would have left himself enough time to have a lap on fresh tyres at the end of the session. So, testing the waters literally with pace, finding that pace. We don't know how much was attributed to the corner, as you say, but that's a lot of confidence that's just been injected. Track is improving. I declare the track is improving. Not because Danny's gone quickest and I didn't expect it. It's because that is now the second driver to have found some time. Danny on pole, Tatum Racing on pole, 140.6 now the target to beat with 4 minutes to go.
Yeah, track has got to be improving unless they're finding a bit more comfort. I'm on board at the moment with Brandu, and I'm just taking a look on circuit, and to be fair, that dry line is starting to widen a little bit on the circuit. So are we in that weird phase at the moment where the intermediate tyre is kind of at its best at the moment when it comes to your mid-dry to wet sort of compound? Are we now in that sort of really nice spot for the intermediate tyre? And that will be my question, as everyone is diving out of the pit lane by the looks of things to get on with it. Epic Vale looking to try and improve now as he's on his out lap. Brandu just starting his lap, and Danny, of course, is on his in lap now after going fastest with a 140.630. This, my friends, will mean we're going to be in for, I think, a little bit of an absolute blinder in this qualifying session. Anybody could be on pole for this one. Anything can happen in the Legacy Division, and it usually does.
This is exciting. I really thought it was over with Ryan and Joe Murphy potentially locking at the front row. Now it is anybody's game. The track conditions changing all the time. You never know. We might have just hit another bad spot again, and we could be losing time all throughout the remaining 3 minutes of the session. Epic Vale has matched his personal best first sector in Q3 so far. Oh, what a sensational drift, but that looks spectacular off-board. Coming down the blind turn 10, scary in the dry, never mind in the wet as he approaches turn 11. Further up the road was Brando. He's heading back into the pit lane. I tell you what, Jota, I think that's his qualifying over, because it will take a long time to change those tyres in the pit lane. He'll spend about a minute in there. He's now got to hope that nobody behind him improves, because fourth would be a tremendous starting spot.
Yeah, good effort from Brandu to go P4, but I think he's got surely going to have to put on another set of intermediate tyres and get on with it, if he even has another set of intermediate tyres out there at the moment. On board with Epic Vale, who's drifting around the corner. You mentioned about that drift, by the way. Unfortunately, he drifted just before the crest of the hill, so we didn't see it off board, which is a real shame. As he's going through to complex of turns 16, 17 and 18, the treble right-hander, as he then goes into 19. And this is where it's going to be critical here for Epic Vale. Is he going to be anywhere near the pace? He won't be when he's invalidating at turn 19 like that, though, and he's going to have to just get straight on with it because he hasn't got the time to dive in, so hopefully he's got enough fuel.
His teammate Sergio did that in Q1 as well, wasn't it? So ET8 being caught out by that quite frequently so far in the space of about half an hour. Cameron Dowds on outlap. TTM Mubarak has invalidated. Officially is on a flying lap, but he has more than enough time to keep that battery nice and charged and to go again, so long as he doesn't get caught out by any of the remaining traffic left on the circuit. Joe Murphy, big wheel spin coming down through turn 1 and then into the kink of turn 2. He went quite far offline there. I'd be surprised if he gained much time through sector 1. Let's have a look at his split for the kick Sauber. Oh, okay, I take that all back. It was so aggressive, it worked. A quarter of a second up for Joe Murphy. He's threatening pole. How big would it be for BRT?
Yeah, if it looks stupid but it works, it's not stupid, is the wise words of a certain individual that I appreciate. Keeping an eye out on Joe Murphy, as we said, then 2.5 tenths up in the first sector. Ryan looking to try and improve as well. He's on an outlap, 44 seconds to go, and he's just coming around the final corner. Epic Vale in the end deciding that the epic lap wasn't going to be there. He's decided to abandon his lap going through turn number 3 as he realised he's got absolutely no electrical energy left in his power unit, which means he's going to be starting no higher than P5 on a track that's actually improving at the moment. So this could be a little bit of a hook, line and sinker for ETA and an opportunity for Team Shizou. Of all teams, they've only got one race win to their name this season. If they qualify well here, they could end up cutting down the gap on the likes of ET8 and obviously increasing their gap on the likes of BRT. But it is all going to be about Joe Murphy, because this man has been showing some serious pace. He's probably the leading driver within the Bunker Racing team at the moment, is Joe Murphy. The fake Venezuelan, Irishman and now Madagascan will be looking to try and improve on his lap. 40.9, 40.4.
Wow.
Makes it and goes pole position, beating Danny by 0.2 of a second. No improvement is going to be happening for the likes of Epic Vale. He'll finish with a 41.1 and he will be no higher than P5, but Justin looking to improve 33 thousandths up in the first sector alone. Looking sharp indeed. Mubarak getting a tank slapper and getting a little bit unnervy through the first sector. Keeping an eye out on Volakongan as well as Dirk as well. They're going through the first and second sectors themselves at the moment. Leading driver to be setting their next lap, I believe, will be Rayen. He's a P3 and he's actually gone fastest in the second sector. 0.3 up on his fastest lap. It is going to be mighty close versus the likes of Joe Murphy at the moment. And TTM have showed some serious pace. As I said, probably their fastest drivers out there at the moment are the team 5th place in no man's land, so they'll be hoping to set some big points and potentially put a bit of pressure on the final run of races against CPI, who at the moment neither of them got through to Q3. Here comes then Rayan. Is he going to get anywhere near Joe Murphy? Beats Joe Murphy by over 1/10 of a second and goes with a 140.3. The track is certainly improving out there at the moment. Is Volakonga going to get anywhere near? Cameron Dowd's 4th fastest. Shazoo's Volakongan 5th fastest. They hug each other then on 4th and 5th place respectively. Justin is 2.5 tenths up in the second sector. He's looking sharp. Is he going to get anywhere near his teammate though? Is going to be the question. Here he comes across the line. He does hug this 3rd place and goes near his teammate as well. Very good stuff from the BRT boys who are looking to try and take the championship lead back. Dirk only goes 9th fastest as Mubarak will start from 10th. It is a great effort indeed from TTM, but specifically only from one of them, Rayan on pole.
Brilliant work from Ryan, and I'll tell you what did that for him. ERS management in the final sector. He left himself a little bit more than Joe Murphy, just to the point where he wasn't derating in between some of the corners, and it might just have been that time that has won in pole position. Very well done indeed to him. Fantastic qualifying too for BRT. Joe Murphy 2nd, Justin in 3rd. They'll complement and support each other in the race. Danny in P4 didn't get that last lap time, and he set his lap time a little bit ahead of schedule when the track was still improving. Cameron down to Volakongan, North Shizou row 3 ahead of Brando, Epic Vale, Dirk and Mubarak. Surprising to see Mubarak struggle at the end. It's where he really thrives, the wet weather conditions on the pad. We saw it in Q2, not to be repeated in Q3. Lovely qualifying.
Lovely qualifying indeed for the Bunga Racing team. They've managed to find a little bit of form and get themselves close towards the front as they try to take the lead back in the championship. ET8 Esports are well off the pace at the moment themselves, but it is about top tier motorsport. 5th place, 453 points and leading the way with a great effort from Rayan, but Mubarak down the order in 10th, not able to get a clean lap in Q3. That's an absolute blinder of a qualifying session. I don't know what the weather's going to be like for the main race, but the lobby will now be restarted. We'll get the collisions turned back on, and they'll be getting ready for what will be an epic racing at the Circuit of the Americas for round number 18 of the WOR Legacy Division. I nearly got there, Joseph. We're back in a few short moments. Don't go away. Welcome back then to WOR. This is the Legacy Division. We are back for the main race ahead of us at the Circuit of the Americas for the United States Grand Prix in Texas. It is myself, Jota, alongside Joseph here tonight for what will be another exciting round of racing ahead of us after what was a very wet qualifying. In the end, turned out trumps for the likes of Rayen at TTM, but when it comes to the Teams Championship, BRT are the ones that qualified well, and in certainly what they need at the moment. They lost the lead in the championship, if you need a quick reminder, at the Canadian Grand Prix, dropping from first to third after a long stint at the top of the standings. ET8 now lead the championship on 586. Then the championship defenders from last season, Team Shizu, 574, only one win to their name. Could this be a race where they could get a second to their name? Bunga Racing Team in third from CPI, then Top Tier Motorsport TF10, Tatum Future Racing Team Grand Track 10, and then the project of Ursio Racing. Grand Track 10 rising to 9th in the standings as well after a great race and great sprint at the Canadian Grand Prix, and now just a bit above 20 points, 21 points in front. Joseph, should be an absolute blinder tonight here in the Circuit of the Americas. It's going to be about strategy unless the rain decides to fall.
Yeah, exciting undercuts we discussed earlier, but the rain has really thrown all sorts of spanners in the works, especially with this track in particular. The rain in that session really went back and forth with, is it getting quicker? Is it getting slower? And at the end, it got quicker, and that's where we saw the best lap times in Q3, just minutes after we were saying, oh, these lap times might be a couple of seconds off. So, yeah, it really is a track that can materialise all sorts of different circumstances here in COTA. I will give a shout out to Grand Track 10. They are my little informed team at the moment to potentially watch out for this race. 9th, 5th and 4th, their best three results in their last three races. Long may it continue for them, because I like to see some back markers, our traditional back markers, that sounds harsh, getting involved in some of the front running as well. Skies are clear, we're going to have a clear race, but that doesn't mean it will be a clean one.
Quick reminder of the grid before we get into the race. Mubarak from Rayen, from Nassim from PLX, Danny and Samuel. Gatkowski starts in P15 after getting 3+ grid penalty. Jeslar starting 20th because he's banned from qualifying. Epic Vale and Sergio for ET8, and then Cameron and Valakonga. Dan Simbarox 1 for FRT. Dirk and Brandu for TF10. Joe Murphy, Justin for BRT, and then Quartz and Kiki in the informed Grand Track 10 team. Should be in for an absolute cracker, as I said. Completely clear skies over the Circuit of the Americas. The rain will be evaporated away, and the drivers will be getting themselves ready for what will be no doubt an intense race ahead of us. Now, when it comes to the tyres, they do get shredded in that first sector, so we would not expect the soft tyres to be a tyre of choice, but hards and mediums definitely going to be all around. The question is, though, when it comes to the strategy, no doubt the hard tyre then going to the medium tyre surely should be the quicker strategy, but there may be one or two that might go out of the fold. When it comes to the race, though, any favourites for potentially winning it, Joseph, very quickly?
Oh, favourite to win. You say very quickly. I'm going to go today for a Brando win to really shock the system and a bit of redemption for TF10. I think they needed after last week. And I've been impressed with Brando so far. Not the best outcome to Q3, but I think he's been there or thereabouts to potentially benefit on a bit of chaos tonight.
A little bit over 100 of you tuning in. Let us know if you think who you think is the favourite for this race win tonight. I think Rayen has been showing some epic pace around here as well. But speaking of epic Vale could be up there as well. And I do expect ET8 to learn from their mistakes in the sprint race and potentially could be towards the front in this one as well. And don't ever discredit Sergio as well. Would be one monumental effort, though, from the person that obviously got knocked out in Q2 and didn't make it into Q3. The drivers are getting themselves ready for this intense race then in the Circuit of the Americas at the Lone Star State in Texas. Austin, the capital city of the southern state, indeed just bordering with the country of Mexico, of course, where we saw what was an intense race a couple of weeks ago in Mexico as well. An absolute blinder of a race back then as well. Bunga Finn Bob says, I reckon the BRT should be in there for a potential race win tonight, and I think they've got to be if they want to try and claw back the championship lead that they lost in the Canadian Grand Prix. Drivers will be getting themselves ready right now. 2026 is the time. In 2025 is the year for what will be a championship win for one of, we would suspect, the top 4 teams in this championship. Answers on a postcard, though, for who you think the favourite is for this championship going into it. I said the likes of ET8 and BRT would be up there. They certainly are. question is who else is going to be up there and who you think the favourite is for the championship win going into what will be a week break before we get going for the final rounds of racing, the final 5 rounds of racing in this championship. Let us know in the chat for all of you that are tuning in for this, the World Online Racing Legacy Division. It is Texas, and it is 1, it is 2, it's 3, it's 4, and it's 5 lights. It's 5 lights, and they are a go. The drivers, here they are down that outside line. Then TTM Rayan will be defending from Justin, but Justin and Joe Murphy both getting a good start, diving straight down the midfield and middle of the ground to defend from the pair of them, and well held from the TTM man. Justin actually jumps Joe Murphy around the outside of turn 1 and manages to get the jump for BRT now 2 and 3. Danny Parr for the TRT managing to hold on to P4 from Cameron Dowds of Volakonga 5th and 6th respectively. Brandu, your favourite for race victory in this particular race, looking very racy indeed, trying to go around the outside then of Volakonga, but holding on to P7 from P8 Joseph, then Mubarak in P9, Epic Vale in P10.
Yeah, good start for BRT. They didn't trip over each other into turn 1. They just slotted in one after the other. After turn 1, was a little bit of contact there in the background. Through turn 11, cars just shuffling into one orderly queue as they try to fight for a bit of slipstream off of each other. Not often you see this, but a Noah's Ark going on. BRT nose to tail, Shazoo nose to tail, TF10 nose to tail. As Epic Vale and Mubarak side by side. It's Epic Vale on the outside line. Mubarak cuts across to defend the inside of turn 13. They then make contact and come together, and off goes into the wall Mubarak. And that was a bit of tyre-on-tyre contact, and in the end Mubarak had no choice but to be a passenger and go straight on.
Yeah, he's I don't know if he's got any damage after collision wall. He does. He's missing an end plate on the left-hand side. My groans going through turn 10 was as a result of, guess what? It's happened again. It looks like a collision occurred between the two TF10 boys, and as a result of that one, may have got some kind of damage. Definitely saw some kind of carbon fibre off one of them anyway, but either way, they still hold on to P7 and P8 as they actually overtake positions as well now for P7 and P8. Rayan still holding on P1 and P2 though. Great start from Justin though, up a position himself now, up to P2 for him versus the likes of Joe Murphy, who didn't have the best start, but Danny Parr really holding his own at the moment in the TRT man in P4 as it stands as well. Really good effort from then. Everyone holding station other than that up to Dirk, who gains a position of course off the likes of Mubarak, who now pits for a fresh front wing, and up 4 positions for Quartz, and again showing the pace of GT10. They have got the pace out there, and when they want to use it they can score points.
Yeah, indeed they can. Just while that Mubarak thing was going on, I think Gatkowski and Samuel Barker, they touched as well. They both ran wide through the triple right-hander of 17, 18 and then into 19 as well. They're still on the back of this queue, so no real harm done, but I think that was just a knock-on effect of the sort of the distraction and everything that was going on after that collision. Simba Rocks won, and Gatkowski just swapped positions. Gatkowski now looking to make some moves. Jeslar from the back of the field into 15th, but as you mentioned, Quartz are little underdogs, aren't they, in GT10? They've got no fear. They're really showing that they've got nothing to lose, everything to gain, having been at the back for so long and really struggling to get out of Q1, score points. They're now looking like a team that you can count on, and here he goes, pulling alongside Nassim, their direct rivals in this fight for P9 in the standings. Down the inside he goes. Lovely move if he can make it work. The Mercedes on the outside, they make contact as Nassim got a little bit of wheel spin. I think that'll put that battle to bed for at least another half of this lap.
Yeah, as we go on the helicopter shot then through the set of S's then going up the hill towards turn 9, and this is where it's going to be all make and break now, I think, now as the drivers start to settle into their own races. How can they look after their tyres? It's going to be the question. Speaking of which, let's take a quick look at the tyre compounds. It's a set of hards all the way through, and there's no expectations of any changes on that one as well. No doubt, surely Nassim has got a warning for that corner cone. Absolutely obliterated turn 10 as Rayan gets overtaken by not 1 but 2 BRT boys, and then Joe Murphy reclaiming the lead of this race goes up from 3rd to 1st. Justin reclaiming his position of P2 as a result of that one, but Ray N now down to P3 as a result. I was going to say it was a bit of a TTM sandwich, not anymore, as the 2 olive branches at the top kick it away for the Kick Saubers in 1st and 2nd respectively. A little bit of bumping and grinding potentially at the back as Danny Parr trying to put pressure pressure as well, as we've got a little bit of racing happening in the midfield at the moment, and Sector 3 yellow flags waving at the moment for a spun car. It's getting really, really aggressive out there at the moment. Quartz now down to P11, Sergio up to P10 as ET8 are looking to try and get some big points here tonight. The championship leaders on the back foot after a poor qualifying.
It was PLX on the inside of FRT Dan in a very similar move to what happened with Moba on the first lap. That front left tyre of Dan just got stuck on the rear right of the Mercedes, and then both could do nothing. It's why tyre hooking is so frowned upon on this game. If you want to start doing it deliberately, of course this is all accidental in the first few laps, but it's just not something you like to see. It's not particularly satisfying watching cars go off in a really random direction like that. Another thing as well, starting to be a little bit of a gap in this train. Sergio, he's not had the best of pace. We were discussing in qualifying how he's struggled really on a personal best point of view. He's now no longer in the DRS of the top 8. So are we starting to see a bit of a breakaway forming? Wide there. There goes the Haas again. Quartz has really been in the wars so far with Nassim. This is a fantastic battle to watch for a neutral, and Epic Vale trying to get involved as well. 3 wide, contact made. Will Epic Vale take both of them down the inside for the championship leaders ETA? Yes, he can. Fantastic move.
Yeah, great move then from Epic Vale in the end, but Quartz and Nassim are still battling it out at the moment despite losing that position. I think Epic Vale was just making that move through there, and Quartz was caught out a little bit by the very quick Aston Martin down the main straight. Now 9th and 10th respectively for ETA. They're in the points. They of course have been in the points for a while, but in the end Epic Vale and Sergio now just working together to climb up the standings again after a very poor qualifying indeed. Both of them now chasing the pair of the TF10 boys in 7th and 8th respectively, in what is an all-Spaniard 7th through 10th battle at the moment as well. The two Shazoo boys, Cameron Daz and Valakongan, 5th and 6th respectively, as they're just holding station in their little battle that's happening between BRT and TTM. But now BRT have got the opportunity to sort of dictate the pace of everyone around them through the set of S as they go. Justin just defending from the very end, who's looking to put a little bit of a charge at the moment on the Brit.
Yeah, he is. Just watching Sergio again, I mean, this is not the position he wants to be in, because Epic Vale, I mean, he's going to be screaming in that party going, come on, you've got to get DRS here, because if he leaves too much of a gap and Epic Vale overtakes, but he can't keep the DRS, then ETA are going to have a long-lasting problem in this race. But fortunately, I think with a bit of overtake usage here, they might still be on to keeping in touching distance with this. It's a really fascinating story going on with ETA. Again, they could lose the championship lead tonight, just one race after gaining it off of BRT. So yeah, BRT 1 and 2, Shazoo 5 and 6. Again, Quartz battling side by side with Jeslar, and Jeslar is going to get that one done on the Bahrain replica corner there at turn 15 and 16. Nicely done from Jeslar, but yeah, this is a bit of pressure now on ETA, particularly Epic Vale. He's the quicker driver in this situation. Can he claw back DRS?
Yeah, Quartz has been hemorrhaging positions for a little bit throughout this race here, which has been obviously a bit of a challenge. He's obviously got Gatkowski now in front of him as he's sandwiched between both the CPI boys. Epic Vale going fastest of anyone so far, down in P9, trying to close down the gap on Brandu and Dirk. At the moment, the gap 1.1, so he won't be in the DRS, but he's now beginning a little bit of a push to try and get within the DRS and rejoin this train, which of course will allow Sergio to get into the mix as well. So it's fairly critical. Epic Vale really works hard now through this first sector in order to close down the gap. Will he be able to do so without making a mistake, and will he be able to find every tenth that he can find? As it stands so far, he's doing a very good effort indeed through the set of S's, finding plenty of time with the lack of any kind of dirty air, has managed to get within the DRS train of Dirk and has invited Sergio for the battle, and ET8 are now back in it.
Yeah, game on, of course, but one long train. It's just going to be about them staying put, staying patient for the remainder of the first stint. And indeed, with that DRS train comes not a whole lot of action in the overtaking zone, unless Cameron Dowds can produce something magical. He appears down the inside at the apex, then has the outside line for turn number 13. Really nice traction. He's going to have to jump that curb if necessary. Then he goes down the inside into turn 16. This is a long, long battle going on at the moment. Again, they can't afford to lose too much time, but Cameron Dowds would dearly love to be attacking the BRT duo as they chase the championship lead for themselves. Not to be on this lap, but there's a confident Cameron Dowds in the car, and what when he's confident, we know he can win.
Yeah, he's looking very sharp indeed at the moment, he's Cameron Dowds, but Danny defending like a lion at the moment in that Scarlet Red Ferrari, looking nice indeed. The Scuderia Ferrari HP team at the moment represented TRT for them in this particular event. Keep an eye out on the situation happening down, I like to say, in P sort of 12-13 at the moment, because I keep just one eye on Quartz at the moment, a driver who has got more pace in him than P13 at the moment, but I don't think the car underneath him is really comforting at the moment. He's been under a lot of pressure from a lot of drivers around, and I think that little battle with Nassim and Sergio has definitely put him on the back foot a little bit, finding a little bit of uncomfort in that Haas at the moment. Rayan just getting close to Justin, but not really looking for any kind of overtake at this particular occasion. DRS available for Justin, of course, on Joe Murphy, so that means that the gap is not really falling too aggressively, as TTM's Rayan will stay in P3.
We'll be seeing something similar to what we were seeing in Canada, where Justin just bides himself a little bit of time. Yes, the natural dirty air can sort of help him lose a couple of extra tenths to Joe Murphy. And then he arrives at the back of Joe Murphy, but also Rayan can't do anything, and therefore BRT will hold a pretty steady 1-2. That's not something that Shizu can really afford. They actually need to try and make some overtakes. So again, Cameron Dowds just in this cycle now. He deployed some of his battery trying to overtake Danny. Now he's harvesting some and may well give it a go in a lap or two's time. So yeah, quite a cyclical race at the moment, I'd say. Maybe more so than Canada, as a lot more teams and a lot more drivers are involved in this long haul battle for the lead of this race.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be one about strategy here, because the undercut is so powerful around the circuit of the Americas. Danny Parodi will be maybe a bit of a dark horse in this race, because I do think he's got more pace in him than fourth place, and if he decides to go for an undercut on a fresh set of medium tyres, he'll jump all the way as far back as Mubarak. He won't have any issues as regards to people around him, and I think he might be able to get quite a decent undercut here. So I think TRT are probably going to be considering an undercut for the Ferrari, and that may be something that TTM and BRT have got to consider later down the line, because these DRS trains are certainly causing a little bit of congruence of all of the drivers around here at the moment. But as it stands so far, as it stands anyway, BRT 1-2, TTM are currently 3-20, as it looks like Mubarak is going in for another pit stop. Can you believe it's second pit stop of the day and 37 seconds back? Definitely an opportunity for Danny Parodi later down the line, as we're getting a few lock up here and there, but there's not really going to be any consideration of any kind of tyre deg at the moment, as we're just looking at the battle between Epic Vale and Dirk in P7 and P8 at the moment, looking decent at the moment in this battle with ET8 and TF10. Of course, the two Spaniard teams are doing a decent effort. Found a little bit of form between the pair of them at the moment, especially ET8, of course, now championship leaders, looking to close down the gap on the front drivers in order to maintain their lead in the championship. Epic Vale now up to 8th and overtaking Dirk as he tries to chase down Brandu for 7th.
Highly observant of you in the chat noticed a few laps ago that Dirk was losing a bit of time in Sector 1, and that's where Sergio is now trying to pounce around the outside of the Dutchman. Wasn't to be some pretty robust defending, but the red light's flashing at the rear. Here goes Sergio. What a move into turn 3. That's not a place you see overtakes often, but Dirk has really been caught napping there. Not sure why he's harvesting battery when Sergio is looming behind you like that. He needs to overtake him. He needs to get with his teammate and stick with him. ET8 are really looking on the front foot now. A couple of clinical overtakes made there by their drivers. Next stop is TF10 Brando.
Yeah, and they can sniff as well, the BRT boys as well. You can see they're now in shot. They're now a matching shot as well, as we've got an overtake potentially occurring. Cameron Dowds and Danny Parodi. Is Danny Parodi going to leave the gap? The gap is there, as Cameron Dowds has said, I've had enough of being behind you, my friend. I want to be in P4, but he's going to have to go around the outside if he wants to get this one to work. Dives down the inside, does Danny Parodi. They're still side by side as they approach turn 15, and they'll want to keep it nice and cool, nice and easy. He's going to get squeezed off of the circuit, does the Ferrari, as it now going to be advantage surely for the Ferrari, who's going to have the traction on the curbs, but they're still side by side through the treble right-hander. But surely the move is done, and Cameron's dad is going to be smiling from ear to ear. Your son is in 4th.
Yeah, great work there again by Cameron Dowds. Volokongan again looking to kind of double up on the Ferrari here of Danny. And that's what I was mentioning. Give him a few laps, charge up that battery. That's exactly what he did. Dumped it all in one go, and there it was, the move. He'll do the same again now, I think, as long as he can kind of stay within close proximity of Ryan. He's still 6/10. There's no real danger of losing DRS, but yeah, expect him to try and repeat that feat on Ryan in the next few laps, ideally before the pit stops, to gain track position.
Yeah, fairly critical here for Team Shizou because they've actually got an opportunity to potentially take the lead in the championship tonight if all works out well with all of the other teams around them. The challenge is that BRT are currently 1-2, so they'll be retaking the lead in the championship as we've got our first guilty party of track limits. FRT Future Racing Team Dan, 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Here comes then a challenge from Cameron Dowds, who he is using a little bit of overtake just to get within touching distance of Rayan, but Rayan is himself looking to just keep the pressure on the likes of Justin. No overtake occurring there as Danny Perrone putting pressure on Cameron Dowds here. The Ferrari man's not happy with that overtake here as Mubarak gets the fastest lap of this race, but he is 52 seconds back in 20th place.
Yeah, he is. Interesting one here for Mubarak. But this controversial view, I don't know how much time he had to stop before the barrier. It was kind of off screen, but it didn't look like there was an attempt to really keep going in this race. Sometimes it feels like that if there's a lap one fate for drivers where they go off in that manner, it's just that they don't really have the intention to carry on or really try and compete at a standard there. If a safety car comes out now, I'll look like an idiot. Dirk is into the pit lane. He's been struggling on the hard tyres. He's been losing time. He's been a little bit lazy in his deployment and has lost a couple of positions from that. Is this the opportunity just to reset, fix an end plate? So he did have damage all along, and that kind of explains it. Now he can hopefully go back to full pace and maybe reach the fringes of the top 10 once again, but it'll be a tough ask for him.
Yeah, undercut opportunity's probably gone with the front wing change, but he will be significantly faster versus everyone else. So this is where it's all going to be about now, whether he can at least recover some of the time and get within touching distance of the top 10. We'll have to see. Either way, Joe Murphy still leading this way at the moment. Justin, both of the BRT boys dictating the pace quite well, but Joe Murphy electing to put a little bit of distance now between him and Justin. I think trying to avoid any kind of confrontation potentially with the likes of Rayan, but an overtake for Volokongan gets the move done a little bit easier than Cameron Dowds did versus Danny Perrone, as Shizou are now up to 4 and 5, and they, alongside BRT, are putting all the pressure on the ET8 boys in this race. ET8 have just held on to the top of the standings for just a femtosecond, and as it's happened, apart from Rayan, BRT and Shizou are both outscoring the ET8 boys by a considerable margin, as both of the teams are having their drivers hugging each other, driver A and driver B, in very close proximity. That's the worst possible situation for ET8.
You know what? Fair play to Sergio. I mean, a lot of people doubting it because of his qualifying potential. It was lucky it rained. It kind of levelled out the playing field for him. Maybe didn't drop as low as he maybe feared. Down the inside goes Epic Veil. I'll interrupt myself briefly. Again, nice move there. Efficient decision making from Epic Veil, committing to a move and making it done and making it happen in an instant. But yeah, Sergio in this race, really consistent race pace, has completely kept with his teammate ever since they swapped positions. And now they are not at risk as losing as many points they potentially would have in this championship. Yes, they may lose a 1-2 to BRT. Yes, they may lose a podium spot to Shizou. Shizou might even get the 1-2 themselves. But there goes Sergio down the inside of TF10 Brando. They are making the most of a less than ideal situation at the start of the race, which as a team manager, as an engineer, is all you can ask for. And you can only encourage them to keep.
Yeah, absolutely no surprises on this one then. That ET8 now leading their own little charge at the moment. Actually a very good team game at the moment from ET8, and they're trying to close down the gap on TRT's Danny Perrone, who at one point was looking fairly sharp and potentially on for a podium, but as it stands, these hard tyres not looking good at all. I don't think anyone's concerned about TF10's Dirk's undercut opportunity here, because of course he had to change that front wing, but we'll have to see if anyone decides to come in. I would expect potentially there may be some people that decide to call it. It looks like Danny Parodi's not comfortable at all. I think the hard tyre's falling off a cliff for him at the moment, so I don't think it's really to cover off Dirk as such, to cover off what is high degradation maybe on the hard tyre. He wants to get on the medium tyre. The question is will this undercut work a treat for the TRT man? And the next question is who's going to react to that one? I would expect surely we're going to see the likes of Joe Murphy, Cameron Dowds and Epic Vale in.
Yeah, they've got to make a decision sooner rather than later, because it's the indecisiveness in recent weeks that has cost teams from really establishing a big gap at this point in the championship battle. It's one of the closest championship battles we have seen ever in the Legacy division over our longest season ever. So, get your decision-making hats on, BRT engineer. What are you going to do? Which driver are you bringing in first? I'd potentially say Justin here, just to try and form a little bit of a blockade to those cars behind and maybe allow Joe Murphy to keep hold of some of that advantage that he's formed over the first 13 laps or so of this race.
I think Team Shazoo are looking more likely to get the move done on Rayan at the moment than Rayan is doing on the likes of Justin and Joe Murphy. So wondering if Rayan has just been holding on pretty decently behind the likes of the BRT boys, but now starting to recognise, I might be getting a little bit of pressure here from the Scottish outfit in 4th and 5th respectively. We've got people complaining. BRT's Owen actually in the chat at the moment complaining about the chat. We're talking about the Discord. Thoughts on Brando waving his DRS to Sergio and then coincidentally letting him through? I don't think that's a bad issue. That's just communication between the two drivers. Just say, I'm letting you through. But apparently waving the DRS is now something to complain about, Joseph.
I'm not going to comment on it too vigorously because I don't think there's any malice in doing that, but you know, if you see it happen again, maybe a couple more times, you maybe have to start questioning the legitimacy of some of these overtakes. But it's a completely normal thing. If you're not quite confident that you're going to hold the pace, you just wave a driver on through. And yeah, maybe the DRS flapping is a little bit potentially childish and maybe looks like there's some sort of communication between the teams, but I'm not reading anything into that so far. Nassim, who was having a pretty solid race in P11, is the second driver to get a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings.
Yeah, I believe that actually might be his next set of 3-second penalties. He's got up to 6 now as a result of that one. Keeping an eye out on the battle here as people are now starting to recognise that Danny Parodi is really quick. He's 17 seconds back from the lead of this race here, and he's actually gaining rapidly at a rate of around about 0.4 a sector. So the undercut working an absolute treat for the TRT man, who I think will probably take the lead of this race. It is a 19-second pit stop as a result of this one, but the challenge is now, and this is where the awful situation is for the likes of BRT, Team Shazoo and ETA. If you have got your drivers, driver A and driver B, so close to each other in a track where the undercut is so powerful, someone is going to have to pay the price, and that typically will be driver B. BRT have elected to continue out there, whilst Rayan has decided to come in. Volakongan has also decided to come in as well. Have we got any of the ET8 boys in? No, they're staying out as well. We're starting to see a bit of a mixed bag here. The undercut is very powerful around here, but people are very unsure about when to go.
Equally a long overcut as well, though, so you know, I think BRT are perhaps playing for that at this stage in the race, perhaps recognising that if drivers are pit too early...
Look at the undercut. I'm sorry to interrupt. Look at the undercut on Danny Parodi versus Rayan. Rayan, remember, was in front in P3 at the point of Danny Parodi pitting, who was on P6. The gap between Rayan and Danny Parodi is now 4 seconds. So that is just a real testament to the undercut performance. Sorry, Joseph.
No, it's okay. I did suggest earlier about 2 seconds a lap, and that is pretty much 2 seconds a lap, isn't it? With being 4 seconds over 2. So, yeah, maybe BRT just thinking here, have they gone too early and are going to lose that time towards the end of the race? Potentially. That's, well, they've swapped positions. I think they are pretty keen on getting one car in, but I thought Cameron Dowds would lap this opportunity up and maybe try and take on both BRT drivers on this lap, but equally they don't want to trip over each other and lose time. So much to think about in such a small space of time. Let's see then which car comes in, because they can't have both kick Saubers in. Somebody is going to have to commit the extra lap, maybe even more. Perhaps Joe Murphy, now sitting in second, being the car to pull into the pit lane. No, it's going to be Justin as the lead kick Sauber. BRT have finally responded, but the work is not done.
Yeah, and it looks like we've also got a jump in for Epic Vale. ET8 are also pitting their first driver as well for a fresh set of medium tyres. Gatkowski, Jeslar all getting the jump, but of course they have elected not to make a pit stop just as of yet. Keep an eye out on Danny Parodi. He's now just coming down towards turn 1, and we'll see how powerful this jump was, because he can see there's the kick out. He's not even left the pit lane, and Danny Parodi is already at turn 1. That just shows you the power of the undercut. The question is, 3-lap old medium tyres versus everyone else on fresh set of medium tyres except Dirk, who's on 5-lap old medium tyres. Are these medium tyres going to go the distance? They've still got to go another 12 laps. 15-lap old mediums are what they're going to be at the end of this race, Joseph. Will Danny Parodi's tyres go the distance?
I think it'd be quickly caught by Ryan and Volakongan at least. Justin, however, needs to claw himself into the DRS range of the two aforementioned drivers. So it's going to be a challenge for Justin, but I do think Ryan and Volakongan will arrive on the scene pretty soon. Those Danny tyres are going to hit that 20-25% drop-off before you know it. He might even be approaching it as we speak, and we'll start to feel the pain of that. Right, further forwards, Cameron Dowds now has the lead of the race for the first time tonight. He's overtaken Joe Murphy. I assume the top 4 will be in on this lap. CPI still looking to go long and long and long. The safety car risk high. No drivers yet out of the race. Nobody having a dangerous crash out. Indeed, both McLaren stay out. The top 4 are in.
Yeah, top 4 are in, both of the McLaren staying out. Mubarak just leaving the pit lane for his third pit stop of the day on a fresh set of medium tyres, hoping that the soft tyres would work with a pit stop as a result of a safety car, but unfortunately not working at all. Danny Parodi has just approached turn 1, and guess what? In all of that, Joe Murphy has just left his pit box as he's approaching turn 1. Again, a testament to the undercut in this particular race. BRT's Justin is in P9. Joe Murphy is down in 12th, Epic Vale and Cameron Dowds 10th and 11th respectively. So the people that have naturally gained the most are the people that pitted earlier for the set of medium tyres. The lead driver on a set of medium tyres is Danny Parodi from Volakongan from Rayen. So as it stands, a real mixed bag. It was a little bit of a topsy-turvy affair with the drivers hugging each other for the teams. Now it's all split apart. Simba Rocks 1, 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings.
I thought Simba was going to get, or at least Quartz was going to get alongside Sergio. That would have thrown another spanner into the works for the ET8 story tonight. But again, this is no bad thing, as Epic Vale has sadly disconnected. Let me see what I can do with that. I'll let you take back over.
Yeah, so fingers crossed we can get him in as quick as possibly can, because ET8 are in for some big points here tonight as it stands, and now they've lost one of their drivers. Cameron Dowds, also a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. That could be fairly critical, actually, in the battle between the likes of ET8, Shazoo and BRT at the moment. If they keep it clean, Cameron Dowds could end up falling down the standings pretty abruptly as a result of the checkered flag coming out, and of course everyone being in such close proximity in this one as well. Finally, we have a pit stop coming in for the McLarens. Jeslar of CPI is finally coming in, so Gatkowski will now lead this race, but of course still needs to serve his pit stop. EVE's Nassim also doing exactly the same thing as well. Look at this side action a bit happening here now between the likes of BRT's Justin. Oh, it's a little bit of a double overtake potentially as well between drivers that haven't pitted yet in FRT's Dan and PLX for EVE. So Justin getting the double move done on Rayhead. That's fairly critical in that battle, leading from the front, but of course they've still got a 3.3 second gap to Danny Parodi.
Yeah, Epic Vale back. That wasn't me, so I think his teammate Sergio may have just got on the case quickly there. Dirt penalty. I see a cam penalty pop up there as well. This is all huge while I was trying to scroll through the menus and hopefully salvage the ET8 race. Right as I was mentioning their story so far, it was a real upwards trend until that moment, and that was not what they needed at all. Right. Back on with Justin then. That's him overtaking Ryan, and now the chase is on. 3 seconds is the gap, 3 laps is the tyre advantage, just over 10 laps to go here in Kota. Is it going to be a BRT win for the first time in a long time? Yeah, the Bradley Walsh approach. The chase is on at the moment as Mubarak gets the fastest lap of this race with a 32.479, but 53 seconds back from Geeky at the moment in 19th place. Justin,
closing down the gap to Danny Parodi already. Gap was 3.3 on the end at the beginning of this lap. Now coming towards the end of this lap, 2.4 the gap in this one as well. I'm wondering if Danny Parodi had a bit of a challenge versus Gatkowski, or his medium tyres already starting to fall off a little bit, which would be devastating considering we're on lap 19 of 28. We've got plenty of racing to go, and the gap falling pretty aggressively versus Justin and Ray, and Velakongan also trying to get up there. Joe Murphy trying to earn the time back. He's on the freshest set of medium tyres versus everyone in the top 5, so an opportunity towards the end of this race. Joe Murphy may have a little bit more in terms of mechanical traction out on circuit.
I understand that Epic Vale cannot take control of his car. That car is still limping around in AI mode. He is back in the lobby, but unfortunately once that happens, there's really not a lot more that you can do other than keep trying.
Just keeping an eye out on Cameron Dow's.
Yeah,
sorry to overtake you on that one. Cameron Dow's really getting in the mix here at the moment, trying to close down the gap on the likes of Sergio, whilst they're battling, actually getting the overtake done, would you believe, at the top of the hill of turn number 9. Here comes the overtake on Sergio, who wants to get the move done on Cameron Dow's. It's a critical issue here, as Brando also in the mix as well. Oh my goodness me, really close versus Cameron Dow's, as FRT Dan just trying to stay out of the way and stay out of trouble on these old hard tyres that he started on. This is starting to open up a little bit now in this race as people try to recover the positions that they lost as a result of the pit stops. But as it stands so far, advantage still falling in the likes of Joe Murphy, despite the fact that he's out of DRS of Velakongan.
Yeah, I don't think that's anything too critical. Justin is keeping pace and will just slow down a tenth or two if he has to, just to try and keep Joe Murphy in touching distance. And just like that, the gap has dipped below 1 second, and he should be fine on the laps going forward. But this is Justin. He's not being overtaken. He's not being pressured by Ryan. He's just being allowed to do his own thing, and has rapidly closed up the gap to Danny, as we did expect. And we should start to see a long line of cars, maybe even as far back as, say, Quartz in P9, really queue up to try and overtake Danny, because this is looking like a critical tyre situation where he has indeed gone far too early from such a good position as well.
Yeah, no World Online restarts banter here at the moment, unfortunately, for Epic Vale. It's just got to be considered, as we've got more time penalties coming in. Got to be considered one of those hardware failures. It's like I don't know, maybe your engine has failed or something has failed in an actual F1 car. You retire from the race as a result. It's just a glitch. Unfortunately, the game just delivers to you, and unfortunately for you, you're out of the race, and that is critical for ET8. Of course, Epic Vale is trying his hardest to get back into his car. I just don't think it's going to be possible for the man now down in 16th place and out of the points. Top 15, of course, score points in this championship. Danny Parodi now under some serious pressure from the likes of Justin, who's now starting to really make his own race, as PLX has now also left this session as well. We're starting to see maybe the lobby become a little bit unstable with 8 laps to go in this race. Keeping an eye out on Justin. Danny Parodi may be overtaken very soon.
Yeah, I think it'll be next lap as we approach lap 21 of 28. Now just 8 laps to go in this one. Still trying to find a solution for Epic Vale. I've suggested he tried to add me. I cannot find him on my friends list at all. I thought I had him already, but maybe apparently not. Justin holds fire into turn number 1. No need to rush it. No need to cause any further issues, and maybe Ryan sweep up both of them. We have seen that move into turn 2 and 3 earlier on in this race from the ET8 lads, who are now not having the best of times.
In fairness to the front 3, they're not actually murdering their ERS at the moment. They've actually been managing it pretty well, have the front 3. So as a result of this one, we should expect, I think Danny Parodi, without the lack of DRS, is going to end up suffering here, as we've got an overtake happening for Joe Murphy, who actually gets the move done pretty early on Velakongan. He wants to get in the mix here, as Dirk gets another 3-second time penalty for his troubles. DRS now available here, as Danny Parodi is likely going to get overtaken very quickly from the likes of Justin. It'll also be Rayan, as they're going 3 wide going into turn 11, as they will go side by side. Around the outside, Justin will go and immediately shut the door on Rayan. He's not going to allow that double overtake to happen. Danny Parodi down relegated to P3, as Rayan stays in P2 in that little scrap there. BRT's Joe Murphy trying to close down the gap. And remember, Sergio is a man on a mission for ET8 at the moment as well. This is all going to be a damage limitation, a situation, or tyre locking happening between the Kick Sauber and the Ferrari here, as they go side by side through the treble right-hander, but into the corner they will go. Joe Murphy now up to P3. Sergio, as I said, a man on a mission. He's going to try and get this done as quick as he possibly can, but elects not to put too much pressure on Danny Parodi. This is critical for ET8. It's damage limitation for the championship leaders.
It's also the race for a 6th race win of the season. BRT and ET8 both tied on 5. And it is Joe Murphy and Sergio on the freshest of the tyres looking to make this happen. I think more than Justin and Ryan are maybe capable of at this stage. Cameron Dowds is out of it with a 3-second time penalty. But that could still happen to anyone of this top 5. And we could be screaming that there's been a late twist in this US Grand Prix. FRT Dan is into the pits. For mediums, he spent 21 laps, I should say, on hard. So, again, not the ideal strategy for FRT Dan, and he's chasing a lost cause in this one. No points on the table for him at all. TF10 Dirk also in. That's a 2nd pit stop for him. Maybe, I would say, try to snatch the fastest lap, but no such thing exists in the Legacy Division, really. Strange one.
Yeah, this is the critical one now. Here is around the outside. Sergio will go. He wants to get the move done as fast as possible off the circuit. Oh, he will go and get a 3-second penalty. That might get taken off at the end of the stewarding inquiries, to say the least, because it was pretty close indeed. But the move is done. Is he going to go down the inside line? No, it's going to be a late breaker from the Ferrari of Danny Parodi, as they're still side by side going through the treble right-hander. 16, 17, and there is 18, and the grip is there and available for Sergio, who's on a significantly younger medium tyre, and in the end, Danny Parodi just has to concede. The gap is not there. Is he going to go for the move into 20? He will not. In fact, he's going to get overtaken from Cameron Dowd to leave the gaps. The gap was there and he got caught napping. Danny Parodi now down to 6th, and it's going to be 7th. It might even be 8th in a second, as Brandu getting in there as well. Is he going to go for the move against the Alpine? He certainly is, as it looks like Velakongan, who was racing for 6th, might end up having to continue battling for 6th, and he gets the move and he just holds on. The Shizou boys are 5th and 6th. They're back hugging each other. They're going to try and close down the gap on BRT, because it is going to be about BRT and Team Shizou in this race. This is fabulous.
I don't want to say it too soon after what happened last week in the aftermath of Lifebout and his crash when ET8 were nailed on 1-2, but this is looking so good for BRT. Talk about a response for losing the championship lead for the first time in 13 races. It's now their time to bounce back to the front, and Joe Murphy is closing in on Ryan, but nothing doing on that occasion. Sturgio down to 6th, now splitting the 2 as around the outside he goes of Shizou Volakongan. Volakongan racing for a net 4th because of the 3-second penalties. He just holds station in P6 because he doesn't quite have to rush this one. Allow Cameron Dowds to use his tyres, potentially close up to the top 3, see what happens from there. Volakongan still has high positions to race for here.
Yeah, there is a distinct impression from Sergio of almost desperation at this point for ET8. Of course, with Epic Veil's disconnection, they're down to 1 driver in this race, and they've been trying their hardest to potentially put on a front after a poor qualifying to continue leading this championship, but it's all going to be all done and dusted in that particular field with 1 driver DNFing as a result of a disconnection. It's just so unfortunate for ETA. It is a bit of bad luck. It's not an out of form scenario. The team are currently in form, and Sergio being in 5th place, considering that he's not been racing here very often and he also qualified very badly, is a decent effort indeed. And of course, remember, he's got that 3-second time penalty that he has to consider, so he'll fall down the standings. But I think in the battle, in the heat of the moment, maybe the stewards will get that 3 seconds removed. Dirk, fastest lap on a fresh set of soft tyres for the Visa Cash Grab Racing Bulls F1 team, and of course representing TF10. As it stands though, BRT, 1st and 3rd, make that. 1st and 2nd, is Joe Murphy going to get box him in? Oh, it's fabulous defending as they box in the TTM Red Bull, and that is all done and dusted. BRT have been dictating this race from start to finish. They're now back in front. Rayan is going to do his best effort to try and keep attacking here, but let's be candid, BRT have shown why they have been a team at the front for so long.
This is BRT at their very best. It's been such a long time since we've seen the green machines at the front in the Legacy Division. It's about time they were back, and they are still very much contending for an historic first Legacy Division title. And maybe I might be joining Moser at his pub for that pints after all, but only on the condition that they win the whole thing. Joe Murphy now being the buffer in stopping Ryan. There's not a lot he can do. He's not got the grip, especially on corner exit. Another 10th just lost there. It could be now that the two BRT drivers race amongst themselves for victory here in Texas.
Keeping an eye on Volakongan, of course, who was racing quite well with the likes of Cameron Dowes, but Sergio has started a little bit of a second wind at the moment in that Aston Martin as he tries to close down the gap on the Scotsman at the moment, and he's trying his hardest, to be fair, is Cameron Dowes to defend from this one, but Sergio doing a decent job in trying to keep that pressure on. Ryan stays in P3 at the moment as the BRT boys will now surely maintain their own race, and what is a valiant team effort from the Bunker Racing team. They surely will be retaking the lead in the championship as a result of this one, but Shazoo are hot on the heels in 5th and 6th. They could really do be in 3rd and 4th because they will eat away at ET8 as a mistake from Justin, but well managed indeed. Cameron Dowds and Volakongan 5th and 6th respectively. If they can get 3rd and 4th, ET8 are going to get hammered as a result of what is, let's be candid, something that isn't their fault.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Matteo said in the chat they were due a little bit of their fair share of bad luck, which is a really good way to look at it. And I fully commend him for saying that, because this season it's just been swings and roundabouts in terms of what drivers have been involved in, what's happened in the race, have they been disconnected, have they been thrown off the track by someone else. It's just been a complete roller coaster of emotions, and regulating yourselves within that team to the point where you can recognise you can just bounce back next week. No issue. It's exactly what BRT have done. They struggled to get into the top 10 last week. They're now 1 and 2 in this race. This championship is a long, long way from over. And yeah, I commend that. Complete the right mentality.
It's been, in the week that is F1 testing, it's been a real test of patience for the drivers out there tonight, and I tell you what, a great effort indeed. Of course, we have only got a few more laps to go before we're in our next week break, and we'll be taking a trip to Japan in 2 weeks' time on March 11th. That is then, though. This is now, and Rayan is still putting the pressure on the likes of Justin, who, to be fair, has been fielded as driver B for the BRT team, but you know what? He's defended so well tonight and is well deserved of his second place in BRT, and what has been a valiant effort indeed from the Green Machines. Keeping an eye out on Quartz, who is also in his own battle, getting very close to the back of Jeslar as he gets the move done on Danny Parodi. His medium tyres are gone. They've fallen off a cliff. He pitted early to try and get it done. I did say it was worth it for the TRT man to do so, but he did pit quite early.
Yeah, he did. I don't understand the rationale about that. I didn't watch Kota Esports, but somebody said in chat that's exactly what Ferrari did on the same lap. I don't know whether it worked out for them. Again, I didn't watch that race in particular, but it's not worked here tonight. He's taken too much out of the tyre too soon, and it was never going to work for him. So many positions dropped. Because I think a bit of overconfidence with that strategy, really. 2 laps to go then in this one. Joe Murphy ahead of Justin, ahead of Ryan, Sergio and Cameron on 3-second penalties, subject to appeals. Then comes Volakongan and Brando, the 7 cars in the front train. Good recovery from Jeslar, by the way, 20th up to 8th.
You may have heard a little Windows 11 notification. Apologies if they did hear that one as well. It's just to let me know that my virus scan is complete, which I'm surprised that my computer's running absolutely fine considering a virus scan has been completed whilst I've been streaming. Figure that one out. As PLX has left the session once again, he's been suffering with major issues alongside the likes of Epic Vale. I'm keeping an eye on Epic Vale actually. He is back in his car, believe it or not, is Epic Vale. So now this is all going to be a bit of a reconciliation effort. He's 4 seconds back from Gatkowski. So at least there'll be some points on the board for Epic Vale, but it's not going to be enough to hold on to this championship lead for what has been a very good race from the likes of BRT and Team Shazoo. But Brandu has still not had enough in this battle. The likes of Volakonga goes for the dive going into turn number 14, and he will hold on down the inside then through 15, 16 and 17 through 18 into 19. The move will surely be done, and Brandu has found his second win at the moment for TF10 and have now split the 2 Shazoo drivers.
Another thing as well, just as we go on to the last lap, I don't know if you could tell if we've had a race this season where 20 drivers have finished, but if we have not, then this would be a little bit of a feel-good story. A pretty well-contested race. It's been clean. There's been no major incidents at the front. Touch wood. It's not going to happen on the final lap. But this has been a real change from the world that we've seen of the past few weeks. And is that because BRT are back at the front? They've taken control, and they are usually a pretty calm and well-collected team.
Oh, you know what? What a time to do it as well, because that just shows that the BRT have actually managed to get their act together a little bit, shown why they were the championship leaders for so long, and now they're going into a week break with that confidence, knowing that they're going to go into Japan and the final stretch of races with this particular pace. The question is who's going to be doing it? Oh no, Rayan's looking to try and spoil the party a little bit. Oh, get into a collision. Both of the BRT boys have been squeezed off. We thought it was going to be all clear cut, but look at this. Rayan has thrown a right spanner in the works here between them. Oh, collision between them as well as they're continuing on the mix. Here comes Cameron Dowd, who wants to get them in there as well. We were all saying it was going to be a BRT clear cut here, but look at this. It's been completely turned on its head, and Joe Murphy's off on the podium as it stands so far. Remember, there may be some penalties to be rescinded, and getting really close up here as well. Oh, don't know. We definitely know who's going to be winning this one as it stands. It's likely going to be Justin, but in the end, in this one, Joe Murphy, 3-second time penalty could prove critical as well. Justin wins the race from Ryan. And from Valakonkan of all people, from TF10's brand new Cameron Dowd, and then Joe Murphy finishing somehow in 6th place at the end of that one from Sergio Jeslar. Danny Peroni finishing in a very good 9th place on 16 lap old mediums from Quartz, rounding out the top 10. Whoa, where did that come from right at the end?
I think there'll be a word in for Ryan. I think there was a bit of contact initiated at the braking zone of turn 12, and that then led to the effect of Justin and then Joe Murphy both spilling off the track. Whatever happened next, it wasn't too bad. I wouldn't attribute blame to anybody there. These are the things you've got to look into on the final lap, but potentially a car under investigation in all of that. Joe Murphy, I think, will have a penalty rescinded. I think he was pushed off of the track at the end of the race, the final corner. So again, changes to be made to these results, but critically, congratulations to BRT. Their first race win in a long time. I think since Spain is the last time they stood on the top step of the podium, and they could not have deserved it more tonight. A really well raced from both of them.
Jeslar, driver of the day for this race for the CPI team, as well as the as the paddock chat is getting a little bit loud on this one as well, and no surprises there. As a lot of people really blaming Rayen for that one. He was getting into a battle, forcing a few errors and forcing a few mistakes has led to a pretty critical situation, but it is the top step of the podium nonetheless for BRT's Justin as well with the Dutch flag. Happy, great performance indeed from the Kick Sauber team. There's Rayen in 2nd place as well. Not a bad effort indeed, to be fair, to get to 2nd place regardless, but the question is will he be holding on to that one? Will there be potentially a stewarding inquiry, as well as Team Shazoo getting another podium for this race? Let's take a quick look then at the what will be, let's be candid, very provisional results in this particular race. And there it is. Justin walks on with a Dutch flag but has the Filipino nationality. Figure that one out. From Rayan, and then Valakongan in P3. Brandu is 4th from Cameron Dowd. Joe Murphy is in P6 from Sergio. And then Jeslar, Danny Parodi in 9th place. A very good effort, actually, considering on the very old medium tires to stay in 9th, with Quartz in 10th. Down at the back, Gatkowski from Epic Vale, Simba Rocks 1, Nassim Kiki, Samuel Barker from Dan Dirk, PLX and Mubarak. PLX and Mubarak both with a lap to their name, and that is it in this particular race. All 20 managed to finish in this particular race. We'll see if we can get the standings updated before we go off air to see what the current positions are as a result of that one. But let's be candid, it's very much likely that we are in a position that, it's going to be probably BRT leading the way from the front, but as a result of that one in the shooting inquiry, might be a bit closer than we thought.
Yeah, I think so. I think at the very least, Joe Murphy should be on the podium. I think he's the most likely of the penalties that I saw to get rescinded. If Cameron Dowd has race director evidence and then didn't get a penalty, I think he could be in for a removal as well. But I won't pass judgment on what I think or think equally won't happen. But indeed, BRT, boy, did they need that. It's been such a long time coming. and the standings are coming through as we speak.
Yep.
7th and 12th provisionally for ET8. That takes them on to 602 points. Shazoo on 619. And even with the 1st and 6th, and maybe subject to further improvement, Bunga Racing Team are your championship leaders once more on 627 points. So 25 points covering the top 3 with 6 races to go still after the week break. Still such a long time, isn't it?
Yeah, CPI as well, just while this is all happening, with an appalling race result in 8th and 11th, despite the driver of the day, really putting a little bit of a cork in their opportunity for potentially the championship win in this one. So I think it is all going to be about the front 3, but CPI could still close down the gap if everything works out well for them. The question is, though, is what is the stewarding inquiries going to look like for this race? Because to be perfectly candid with you, 26 points separating the difference with the fastest lap now on between BRT and ET8, with Shazoo bang in the middle on 619. So as Joseph alluded to, BRT leading the way as it stands, 628 from Shazoo, 619 ET8, 602. Then you've got CPR in 546, TTM 485, TTM on 326 from TRT's 291, FRT 185, GT10 133, and EVE with 107, a couple of points with that 14th place finish. Look, let's be perfectly candid. It is extremely provisional. There's definitely going to be some penalties removed. I think there's definitely going to be some penalties added on as well, Joseph. Early indications suggesting, though, that, let's be honest, this title going into the final 5 rounds of this championship, final 6 rounds of this championship, rather, is still very much open and up for grabs.
Yeah, still very much up for grabs. Too early to make any final judgments, though. I don't think the gap has really been big ever since BRT had a 100-point lead at the start of the season, but they knew themselves that was never going to sustain. So goodness knows what happens in a couple of weeks' time going to Japan. If there's ever a place that there's going to be errors, pile-ups, potentially worse, it will be there. And then we've got a run of Hungary, Britain's a bit more open, Austria as well with the DRS trains, then Monza and Spa, just to throw in some of the most chaotic venues for DRS trains, and indeed the least rewarding circuits on the F1 game right at the end of the season. So yeah, it could be a lottery of results from now until the start of May.
Yeah, Joseph absolutely nailing it on the head then. So we are now in a week break for this particular event, as we now take all of the party brigade of the World Online Racing's Legacy Division from Texas down and go west to the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka. We then take a trip back to Europe for Hungary, Britain, Austria. Then we go to Monza, and then wrapping it up at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium on April 22nd. So let's have a little bit of a breather, let's reconcile, and let's have another look at those championship standings when all of the stewarding inquiries for penalties that are removed and added on. I'm sure that will be all updated on our Twitter X platform. It's at WOR League. But that's it. We go away for then a week, and then we'll be back, as I said, in Japan on March 11th. Thank you very much for watching. From myself, Joseph, and the rest of the team here at WOR Legacy Division, thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. Take care. Bye-bye for now.